Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome here if you are new. My name is Tara and my YouTube channel name is The Planting Bug. And in today's video, I'm going to be bringing you plant care for beginners or plant care 101, whatever you want to call it. I used to be one of those people that did not think that I could keep a plant alive. In fact, every once in a while I would buy a plant, it would die. And I just really never put any time or effort or research into what it took to take care of plants. And so I would say about probably over 2 years ago, I started incorporating plants into my home. I just started out with one, decided to see how long I could keep it alive, and then it just snowballed from there. And that's usually what happens to plant people. You buy one plant and then you get addicted. So in today's video, I'm gonna bring you the easy beginner tips on like just what you need, what it takes to keep plants alive, just really easy. If I can do it, you can do it, so stay tuned. So this first part of the video is just gonna be for beginners. It's if you're a little bit nervous and wary about if you can keep plants alive. I don't recommend going out and buying a bunch of stuff. Honestly, just buy a plant. But I do recommend buying an easy plant to care for. And I'm gonna be doing a video here soon, like within the next week, of all the plants that I believe are great for beginners. But just for the video's sake, and if you don't wanna wait for a week, I would recommend getting a snake plant. I would recommend getting a Monstera deliciosa. I would recommend getting a Chinese money plant or like any succulent. Those are really great, just beginner plants to get. But like I said, I will do a more advanced video and talking to you about the easiest plants that I have that I care for that I believe would be great for beginners. So let's go ahead and start off with the first thing that I feel like you kind of need to have when it comes to plant care 101 for beginners. Okay, so now you've gone out, you've bought your first plant that you've brought into your home. Just an easy care one. The first thing I want to talk to you about is where you're going to put it in your home. Now, I would say 90%, maybe even more, plants really do well in bright, indirect sunlight. So if you place it near an east-facing window, that is awesome. You can also place it near a west-facing window, but I would not put it directly in the window because it does get hot. So I'd make sure if you have a west-facing window that has great light, that is perfect, but then make sure it is set back from the window a bit so that it doesn't get that heat and direct sunlight all day long. You can also place it in other windows if you get good sunlight. But like I said, east is ideal, west is great, but just have it away from your window. And the next thing you want to do is you want to figure out watering techniques for your plant. You don't really have to buy anything. I would recommend getting like a watering can, but you don't even need this. I don't want you to go out and spend a lot of money on tools to care for plants at the beginning, because what if you still can't, you know? So I'm not gonna recommend going out and buying all this stuff, although in this video I will show you some of the stuff I use in the second part that just kind of shows things that help me. But I would recommend getting a watering can, and if you don't want to spend the money, all you need is a cup of some sort or your faucet at the sink. Most easy care for plants can be watered with tap water. It is perfectly safe for them. So you can just take your plant right over to the sink when it needs to be watered. You can water it in the sink, you can spray off the leaves and then put it back to where it belongs. So like I said, you don't need to buy something like this, but if you're like me, I love to have these around so that I can carry them and they're easier to water and I'm not necessarily spilling water all over my house. But like I said, you do not need to go out and buy a watering container unless you want to. The next, really, I don't say it's important. You don't need it, but really for me, I was always so confused when I first got into owning plants on when do you water the plants? You always, if you watch YouTube videos and even mine, I will let you know that most plants need to be watered at least once a week, some every other week. But the thing is, you don't want to water a plant just because someone tells you water it weekly and then you water it every Wednesday. Because if it doesn't need to be watered, if the soil is moist, then you do not want to be watering it, because then you will overwater it and you'll get root rot, which will kill your plant. So I think that is one big mistake that beginning plant owners do, is they just say, okay, this plant needs to be watered every week. They water it every Wednesday, and then it ends up dying because it didn't need to be watered and you're overwatering it, if that makes sense. So there's two things that you can do to help. The first one that I love is my moisture meter. This is probably my favorite tool of all time that I have when it comes to knowing when to water my plants. But you do not, like I said, you do not need to go out and buy this tool right away. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's a great idea to go out and spend a bunch of money, although these are really cheap. I think it's good to get your first plant in your home, maybe even 2 plants, and see if you can keep them alive over a few months. And then if you can, and you're really enjoying the process and you want to get more, then I would recommend getting this. So with a moisture meter, you stick the moisture meter in the soil when you feel like it's time to water. You check the moisture or the soil, you put it in twice. If it needs to be watered, it's going to be in this red area or even in the beginning of the green. But if you put the moisture meter in the soil and it reads here, then you definitely want to give it a nice thorough watering. If you go ahead and stick this moisture meter in on the day that you're checking to see if it needs to be watered and it's in the green area or even yet in this blue area, don't water your plant. It's that simple. So like I said, to me, this really just gave me the peace of mind that I did not need to water a plant when it doesn't need to be watered, or vice versa. I need to water it when it needs to be watered. Sorry, my words are, hopefully I'm making sense. But like I said, you don't need to rush out and buy this. You don't even really need this at all. You can always do the finger test where you stick your finger in the soil. You can do it in a couple of places, and then you just put it in maybe like 1 inch or 2, check the soil. If it feels moist, if you're pulling your finger out and there is soil stuck to your finger and you can feel that it is, I don't want to say soggy, but moist or wet, then again, you don't need to water it. If you stick your finger in the soil and it's completely dry, then water it. So like I said, you don't need to get this. It's just a real handy tool to get. You can use the finger test. I do it when I can't find this, or I just do it as I'm walking by on some of my higher difficult plants that I care for, like calatheas. I'm constantly just sticking my finger in the soil to see if I need to water it, because some plants, when you get more difficult plants, they need to be watered a couple times a week sometimes. So, like I said, watering utensils are great, but you don't need them. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is a lot of people, I believe, make the mistake. They buy a plant at a nursery store. This is my beautiful jade plant. Isn't she gorgeous? My daughter's bought this for me for Mother's Day and I'm in love with her. But anyway, you buy this at the nursery or at Walmart, wherever. This is a nursery pot and it's got great drainage holes, which is key to keeping your plants alive. So just remember that. My point is, a lot of people make the mistake where they buy a plant, bring it home, they buy a decorative pot, and then they just immediately replant it and put it in the decorative pot. Let me explain to you why that is a no-no. And like I said, these are just all of my tips and advices. I'm not claiming at all to be an expert, but it's just what I have noticed has worked for me throughout the years. But if you bring a plant home, number one, it needs to get acclimated to your house a little bit. It's been used to being in a moisture environment in a greenhouse or in a nursery or in a store. Sometimes it comes from really great environments that has high humidity, and then you're bringing it into your home, and sometimes they struggle a little bit. Sometimes it takes them a minute to get used to being in your home. So it's really important to give it time to acclimate to your home before you even think of repotting it. But also, a lot of plants can live in the nursery pot for years. A lot of plants like to be root bound, some do not. But until you see like roots coming out of the pot, or you see it's not necessarily doing well, maybe it's got a little root rot going on, you really don't need to replant this. I mean, I have plants that I've bought 2 years ago and I've never taken them out of the nursery pot. So my point is, you can keep plants that you buy new in their nursery pots. And then what I like to do, because you know, this isn't the prettiest thing on earth. I mean, you really, like I said, you don't need to go out and buy anything, but if you decide you want to make them look cute and have them in a decorative pot, like this one here, you just go ahead and stick it, the nursery pot, in here. And voila, you've got a plant that looks like it's in the decorative pot and it just looks cute in your home. So that is a recommendation that I would do for beginners out there. Do not bring a plant home and repot it immediately. Wait until it absolutely needs to, and you can go ahead and stick it in a decorative pot. Okay, so again, talking about nursery pots and decorative pots. Just in general, when you water your plants, I want you to pay attention to, if you water it in this pot and water drips out of the bottom of the nursery pot and into the decorative pot or into a tray that you have, that water is going to accumulate and it's just going to sit in here with the plant. So why this is really bad and you do not want that to happen is water just sitting in the pot means that the roots at the bottom of the plant are sitting in water. And what's going to happen is it's going to cause root rot to your plant. I've brought that up a couple times, which is just really bad for your plants. So what I want you to do is when you water your plant, make sure they're out of the decorative pot. Go ahead and water them, like I said, at the sink, and make sure all this water has dripped out of the bottom. And once that is done dripping, then go ahead and set it back in the nursery pot. You know, you can go ahead and water it in the decorative pot, but I would check the bottom of it maybe an hour later and just see if there's water sitting at the bottom of this pot. And if there is, just make sure you pour it out. And then that will just help you not to get root rot on your plant. Okay guys, so honestly, that is all you need to be a beginning plant owner. Like I said, I don't want you to go out and buy a lot of stuff, a lot of products. Just go out, pick out an easy to care for plant, bring 1 or 2 plants into your home, see if you can keep it alive for a few hours. I'm so sorry. See if you can keep it alive for a few months. And if you can, which I know you can, then incorporate more. So I'm gonna do a part 2 to caring for plants for beginners. And this is just gonna be like the next level when you're not a brand new beginner and you want to incorporate more plants, because there are some tips and tricks and some tools that you can purchase that will just make you more successful in keeping your plants alive. Because once you start owning a lot of plants, you just are more susceptible to killing a few, and you start to get fungus gnats and all that yucky stuff. But there are ways to kind of help with all of those things. So I'm gonna do a part 2 that will come out in probably next week. And then I'll also do great plants to own if you're a beginner plant owner. Now, really quickly, let's just kind of go through what we talked about. Like I said, don't go out and buy a lot of stuff, especially because you just don't know if you're gonna be able to care for plants and keep them alive. So go out, purchase 1, 2 plants. Like I said, you don't need even a water container. You can just use a cup or your faucet at your sink or your bathroom, even your shower, you know, just any way to get your plant watered when it needs to be watered. You don't need to buy the moisture meter. You can use the finger test for the soil. Make sure you are putting it in a well-lit area in your home. Bright, indirect sunlight is great for like almost all plants. Like I said, I'll do a tip video on the best plants to buy for beginners, but just for this time's sake, if you're like, I want to go out and buy a plant now, please tell me. Like I said, Monstera deliciosa, snake plants, Chinese money plant, or like any succulent is amazing. So those are just a few little ideas of plants to run out and get. So go out, get 1 or 2 new plants. I promise you can keep them alive with these just easy tips that I've told you. Don't buy anything besides the plant. And then my next video, we'll get into like fertilizers, we'll get into soil for repotting, and just all of my tips and tricks on what I have done to be so successful in now owning over 70 plants, and for the most part, keeping them all alive and healthy. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was useful and helpful. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions. I am an open book. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I will love to give you any advice to kind of help you along your plant journey. I'm here for you. So, all right, I'll be back soon with some more plant care. If you are not subscribed yet, I'd love to have you stick around and subscribe to my channel. So please hit that red subscribe button down below. Turn on the notification bell so you're notified each and every time I upload. And I'll be back next week with part 2 of Plant Care 101 for beginners. Bye, guys.